What is up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Live Locks presented by Scores and Odds. If you haven't already checked out Scores and Odds yet, just making bad life choices, go on over there, sign up. We have all sorts of picks for baseball, basketball, football, hockey, golf, college football, college basketball. We got everything, plus all sorts of tools like this little one right here, where you can see what RG projects for each individual statistical category and where the best odds are at. As you can see, Musgrove, we project for 6.1. The best place for the under is minus 142 over on FanDuel. Everything just right in this neat little area. Plus, you'll get access to Grant's Action Lounge if you haven't already signed up for it yet. Go to scoresandodds.com/Discord. Get in there. I'm dropping in all my picks. We've been absolutely crushing it outside of this month. This month has not gone great. Down almost 2 units, but we're only 2 weeks in, and I've had COVID the entire time, so who knows what it is. But prior to much, up about 18 units, something like that, 20 units. I don't know. Up a lot, 30 units. We're up 16 grand at $500 a pop. That's a lot of money. So yeah, go sign up. It's moving over to premium starting at the beginning of next week. So now's your time to make some money so you can pay for your subscription free of charge by just throwing in my bets. I'm joined by one of my good buddies. He knows basketball, he knows baseball, he knows football, he knows things. Justin Carlucci, aka the Looch. How you doing over there, buddy?
What's up, Turd Ferguson? I don't pretend to be the smartest guy in the room. Having a good start to the baseball season, though, attacking a lot of these K props as we like to do. And, you just have been paying for a lot of juice, but some of these lines have just been so bad based on the data we have. We'll see what happens as these pitchers start to ramp up. We're starting to see second turn through the rotation for some of these guys. I have 2 premium bets in for today so far, Grant. A couple more that I'm teetering on, a couple more that I drug my feet and missed early lines on because I kind of wanted to see lineup cards, and it kind of bit me in the rear a little bit there. But maybe we can talk through some things. I see we're on a couple of similar ideas and bets here based on your spreadsheet, and I'm glad you're feeling a little bit better. Hey, if you had COVID and you're only down 2 units at the same time, I think you're doing all right. So good to see you back in the saddle, man.
Yeah, no, I'll take it. I mean, strangely enough, it's been playoff basketball, which should be very profitable for me, but it's just gone very, very poorly so far. But I mean, there's only been 4 playing games, so can't really go off of that sample size too much. We got full slate of action on Saturday. I've actually got one bet in here already. Joel Embiid under 33.5 points, sitting at minus 110 over at DK. Like that line's just getting so high, like it's shot up more and more. And I have a feeling in the playoffs, the Raptors are going to try and shut him down. Like people scheme differently in the playoffs. So that line has just gotten so high. I'm rolling with the under on that, but that's the only real baseball or basketball bet that I have going because we got bases ball going on. Let's go ahead and check out your first premium bet. Just go ahead and give people a little bit of a view of what's going on here. We got JT Brubaker under 4.5 strikeouts. Right now, I think that Brubaker has already moved down to 3.5. Yeah, he's moved down to 3.5 everywhere. I actually bet the under 3.5 at plus 125. Go ahead and tell me why you like Brubaker as under so much.
Well, that makes me feel better that you're on the under at a full K lower. The Nats are just underrated. Everybody was kind of labeling them a total rebuild and a wash, and yeah, they're rebuilding and they need some help here. But like he leans on his slider to get guys out, and I do a lot of my research and plate IQ as you do, and you know what? Like you have to take some of the stuff with a grain of salt, but the pitch data historically is very good and very accurate. We don't always have a ton of like immense sample sizes of the batted ball events against guys against their pitches and their handiness here. But what we do know is over a decent sample, the Nationals guys that are projected to be in this lineup are really, really good slider hitters. I mean, Brubaker threw his slider 40% of the time against righties, and 26% of the times against lefties. That's his whiff pitch. That's his out pitch. If the Nationals roll out this lineup that we have them projected for, there's only 2 guys in their lineup with a whiff rate over 40% against sliders here. So I think they'll be able to make contact pretty frequently. Brubaker's not a high K guy as it is here. So that was one of the lines I was willing to jump on early in the day without like really having to see what the Nationals are going to roll out. I don't think they're going to pull the rug and bench, 2 of their regulars or anything like that. So I like Brubaker. I think we're on the same page there with him.
Yeah, no, I mean something interesting like generally slider guys like they hammer in their slider versus righties, and then he'll hammer in his changeup versus lefties, but he still throws his slider at 26% versus lefties. I think it's because his arm angle is a little bit lower, which
Mhm.
kind of makes it easier to strike out the opposite handedness. But they really just don't strike out a ton. I mean, ignore Fox here, 7 plate sample size,
Right.
not much. The highest strikeout rate guy is Robles, who's ninth in the order, 23.4%. Still not bad. But you got Soto sitting there at 11.8%, knows how to work a count. Most of these guys know how to work a count a decent amount. Don't walk a ton, but they'll foul off a lot of balls. You have like 7 different lefties in this lineup here, which Brubaker, being a big slider guy, definitely strikes out lefties at a much slower clip. It should actually be more than 2.5%, but I mean, whatever. It's a similar, or it's a small enough sample size where I think that it's going to regress more in the future here because two like similar plate appearances. There's no way they should be striking out righties at close to the same rate when his changeup only gets a 15% whiff rate. I mean, granted, he's got a curve there with a decent whiff rate, but yeah, overall, I think that this line is just too high. It was definitely too high at 4.5. At 3.5, getting plus 125 juice on the under. I'm still willing to roll with it. I like it. Let's move on to my next bet here. We got Gilbert under 5.5 strikeouts. Here saying a minus 105 over at Caesars. I think it's moved a little bit. Gilbert overall a solid pitcher. Like I like him, but he's going up against a lineup where there's not a single guy outside of Berger, which we only have a 35 pitch sample size, who strikes out over 23% versus righties. Everyone in this lineup kind of works the count. They don't strike out a ton versus righties. And Gilbert, while he's a solid overall pitcher, he strikes out lefties at a higher clip than righties. Looking at his pitch mix, it's because his changeup is his best out pitch. I mean, he's a fastball slider, curveball guy, not a bad overall pitcher, but he was also way better at the beginning of the season, kind of tailed off towards the end. More people figured him out. So realistically, second half of the last season was not as good of a strikeout pitcher. And 5.5 going up against this good White Sox team. I don't know if he's going to make it that late into the game. Don't have him projected to go that late into the game. I mean, everyone's kind of at the spot right now where they're on a limited pitch count. I don't think we have anyone projected for over 90 pitches today, just because everyone's getting real like stretched out. It's been a short spring training. We had the lockout, all that stuff. So no one's fully ready to pitch over 100 pitches at this point. So Gilbert under 5.5 strikeouts, minus 105. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I don't mind that whatsoever. I think the numbers align pretty well. I was indifferent about it, but I think it makes sense that the White Sox lineup, they're a really disciplined lineup, and anytime you got Tim Anderson at the top, it bodes well for you.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move on to the next bet here. I got Morton over 5.5 strikeouts. Now, one big thing with Morton, I think he had 76 pitches in his last outing. Should get close to 90 in this spot here, which wouldn't be great for a lot of other pitchers, but he's old. He never really goes that late into the game. Does never really pitches that high of a pitch count. There's a lot of low strikeout bats here, but it doesn't really matter with Morton because his stuff is so good. He's going to face what 5 different lefties in this spot here. We know that he has that incredible curve that never seems to go away. Just keeps getting older and just keeps hammering it in. 33% K rate versus lefties, and we got Adams, we got Profar, we got Hosmer, we got Cronenworth, we got Grisham all in the lineup there. A lot of them aren't huge strikeout guys, but it doesn't really matter with Morton. He was hitting it pretty consistently over 5.5 last season in the second half of the season. So I like the over of 5.5 here. We got it at plus 110. You with me?
I don't know. He was one I'm kind of on the fence about, and if you scroll through, he really leans on that curve like you talked about. Flip the bottom, the lineup to his curve. I mean, like these guys, like of course you have to take the sample size with a grain of salt, but there's some decent contact rates against the curve, and I don't know. I can't decide what to do with 5.5 here, so I might sit this one out and just kind of spectate. If it goes up, if we see a crazy move to 6.5, I might take the under. I don't know. Obviously, this Padres lineup, isn't exactly what we thought it would be at this point without Tatis, but I was surprised to see how well they really hit his pitch here. So, but like you said, the pitch count's encouraging. His stuff is so good. So I'm a little torn here, Grant.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting. I got it plus 110 about an hour and a half ago. It's already sitting at minus 104 is the best line, sitting at minus 110, minus 115 at most places. I don't know if I love it at that spot there. I still think that offers some value at minus 104 over on FanDuel. But at plus 110, it was great. And I mean, good to know that the line movement is here with me. So let's look at what's your other. Looks like you have Otani over 5.5 strikeouts, which I think the line has moved a bit there. Let me check. No,
The
it's still sitting at minus
but
141 over at
yeah,
Caesars.
I didn't expect that to move. And again, you're paying for the juice here. Rangers team that they actually have some respectable K rates in that order. But 5.5, I think, is just a great number for Otani. Obviously, he didn't throw a ton of pitches in his first start, but what did he end up with? 80, or he was almost pushing 80, I think.
Yeah, he hit 89 strikeouts.
I mean, listen, like you still have Garver who Ks a ton. The lefties in that lineup. Love Brad Miller leading off with that K rate if that's gonna remain constant here. So I mean, you could almost pencil him in for at least a K there. And I just think 5.5 is too low. I mean, his stuff was wicked in his first start. Obviously, it's only once, but he hit 5.5 at a really high clip. I forgot exactly what I wrote here. But even when he like didn't throw a ton of pitches, what was the number here? Otani, yeah. When he threw between 75 and 90 pitches, he hit this over in 9 of 13 appearances last season. So that was more than enough to sell me. His stuff is so good. I'm not thinking twice here about paying the juice here at 5.5.
Yeah, I definitely don't hate it. I mean, I think I don't know if it offers a ton of ROI in my opinion, but the better bet is definitely even with that juice the over. I mean, the thing that really worries me here, and the reason why I didn't go on it is the walk rates of the guys in this lineup. I mean, Miller 13.9, Simeon 9.1, Seager 13.3, Garver 16, Lau 13.6. Like that's what worries me. I mean, obviously the bottom of the lineup isn't great, but Otani can at times get a little bit wild. It's earlier on the season. Again, I think that you're on the right side of things. I think that it is the better bet. I just don't know if it offers a ton of value here at minus 140, but I'm not going to argue against it. I think it's a modest amount of positive ROI, just not something that I planned on betting. But you know what? There's some people are right, some people are wrong, and I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just not the bet I'm on. I know that you're against my other ones, but
Well,
that's okay.
you're absolutely right. We've seen those Otani games where he just doesn't have the command, and you will get those games a couple of times this season. I was on the wrong side of it in the first game. Who did he pitch against? Was it
Houston, which we all thought that he would not
was
strike out a
Houston?
ton.
That's a lineup with a ton of high walk rates as well. Obviously, they're one of the most disciplined teams in the league because they cheat. I'm just kidding, but and all
They do
jokes
cheat.
all jokes aside, kind of same setup here. So I'm just playing the odds here that he'll keep his command and maybe he rated that ship. But he will have a couple of those games where it's like, who the hell is this guy? I'm hoping it's not tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, on your point, the line has moved 15 points, 10 points on 20 points on pretty much every, and it's all the way up to 6.5 over on FanDuel. So clearly, whenever you have line movement in your favor, generally means you've made the right decision. Um, Look at my next bet here. We got Aaron Judge over 1.5 total bases, sitting at plus 110. Not an easy matchup versus Gaussman. Gaussman's a solid overall pitcher. I'm a huge fan of him, but getting this line at plus 110, one thing Gaussman absolutely does is he gives up a lot of hard contact, a lot of line drives. I mean, he's a very good overall pitcher. He can strike guys out. Judge is above average strikeout guy, but over 1.5, anytime I can get a guy that absolutely clobbers the ball in Judge, who 50% hard hit rate, and there's going to be a lot of line drives. All I need is a double or two singles. I think that's can easily happen. I think that has over a 50% chance of happening. So getting the line at plus 110 is just solid here. I really like it. You with me?
I like that too. I didn't bet that personally, but now looking at the numbers, you're kind of talking me into it. Gaussman, as good as he was, listen, you're in the AL East now, different ballparks, a lot of power in the orders here. Judge, like you said, hits a lot of line drives. And Gaussman's still a guy that throws his fastball 50+% of the time, as good as he was. And if there's anything we know about these Yankees, is they can hit fastballs. I'm not sure what else they could hit, but Judge looks really good. I like that bet.
Yeah, I mean, something always to consider is like Gaussman. Obviously, XFIP kind of plays into this because XFIP is really just FIP lineup ballpark adjusted. So moving from San Francisco over to Yankee Stadium is kind of a big difference. Obviously, last year being in the NL, didn't have to deal with it DH, so his numbers are going to go up a little bit. He should, like, putting everything into account, his xFIP should be closer to 3.7 when you adjust for the DH alone, and now he's going up against the Yankees. I mean, I'm mostly just on board because I think he's a good pitcher, but line drives and hard contact are two things that, like, you want to see when you're looking for doubles. Like, I'm not looking for just a hit. Hit doesn't matter. It needs to be a double or two singles. So getting the over of 1.5 at plus 110, which I think it's moved to plus 105. I still like it at that point. I think offers some solid value. Let's move on to the next one. We got Bryce Harper over 1.5 total bases. I mean, getting it at plus 125 seems super solid to me. This Philly team has been hitting fantastically. They're playing on the road. They are going up against Miami. I know Alcantara is a solid overall pitcher, but he's definitely worse versus lefties than he is versus righties. Like, it's not remotely close. I know that his overall WOBA isn't a huge difference, but only striking out 20% of guys, giving up a 37% hard contact rate. And Harper's numbers versus righties last year: 386 ISO, 467 WOBA. And I'm getting over 1.5 at plus 125. I don't know what I'm missing here when he's on the road team and probably going to end up with 5 at bats.
Yeah, I like that call quite a bit. You nailed that one.
Yeah. Let's talk about one that I think both me and you were looking at here. It's Freeland under 5.5 strikeouts, or is it 4.5? Let me check at what's sitting at right now. Still saying at 4.5. You can get it plus 100 over at FanDuel. On the under, you can get it minus 110 on the over at Caesars. Which side were you looking at on this one for Freeland?
Yeah, I'm looking at the over and I feel so strange, thinking I'm gonna be interested in a Kyle Freeland over K's prop at home. But like I want to see the Cubs lineup. I mean, we haven't projected to have Frazier lead off, I believe, with Contreras and Wisdom right there, and those are some massive K rates. I don't think that's going to be the lineup that we're going to get, but like Freeland is kind of backwards. He strikes out more righties than lefties, and I mean the Cubs have so many righties. I think the only lefty platoon guy would be Ortega, who was terrible against lefties. I think he had like a 32% K rate against lefties last year. Or if they have Jason Hayward dust off his cleats and hop in there, but like neither of them scare me. I think there are definitely Ks in this Cubs lineup. Like I'll live with the Madrigals and the Suzukis and the Nico Horners who are just gonna put the bat on the ball. But like Patrick Wisdom's good for 2 to 3 Ks a game most nights. I know we're at course here. Freeland is a little volatile, unpredictable, but like it just feels like with those K rates, he got hit against the Dodgers a little bit, still struck out 5 or 6 guys. I feel like it could be one of those nights again. 4 to 5 earned runs, 5 to 6 Ks for Freeland. I just haven't made a move on it yet.
Yeah, no, it's just such a tough one. I mean, sitting at minus 110 over at Caesars is super enticing there. Offshore books are liking the over, and every other sports book is sitting at minus 125, minus 135 on the over. So, like, getting that juice at minus 110 is super appealing. I mean, look at what he did last season at home: 3, 5, 6, 10, 6, 5. Like his last 5 of his last 6 starts at home last season, he hit it, which really doesn't seem like it should happen. I mean, Freeland has never been a huge strikeout guy in the past. He's still only sitting at 20%. They'll generally give him a pretty long leash. It's one that I'm definitely thinking about the over.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I want to pull the trigger here. I'm kind of with you. I want to wait and see what lineup they end up rolling out there. I mean, definitely Frazier's leading off. If it is this Frazier, Contreras, Wisdom lineup at the top, then I kind of have to think that I'm going to. And if Hap was in there, Milo mentions that Freeland was also facing a pitcher last year. Yes, but he also averaged 6 strikeouts over his last 7 starts, maybe 6.5. I know that, but Chicago's really not a great lineup. I mean, they're kind of trash. They got some guys that know how to work a count, but Freeland really doesn't walk a ton of guys. He generally throws a lot of strikes. So
That whole opening series with the Brewers, can we just throw it out? Like the weather was horrible. Corbin Burns had no problem bouncing back against Baltimore in a lineup he should have destroyed, and he hit his over. Um, and just speaking of the Brewers, not to totally switch gears, but Brandon Woodruff was terrible as well. But he had a really long leash. I think he threw 89 pitches. I wish he had any other matchup except the Cardinals because they just don't K a lot here. So, I'm looking for long leashes right here in the second time around, and he has probably one of the longest ones on the slate. But 6.5, tough number against his team, I think. Do you have a lean on this one, or are you passing?
On Woodruff, I actually ended up taking an alternate spread there, which alternate spreads, I think I'm up 2 units so far this year on this show. I ended up taking Milwaukee -2.5 at +240.
Nice.
Um, like I Milwaukee has not been great so far this season. I mean, let's look at their hitters so far. 2020, yeah, just you see all red, but they're not a bad hitting lineup. I mean, they add McCutcheon to it. They got Tellez, they got Adames, they got Yelich, they got Wong, they got a lot of guys. And I mean, Wainwright's he's been solid so far in his one start. He was very good last year, but he's getting old. Woodruff is just the better overall hitter, or I mean, better overall pitcher. He's one of the top pitchers in the league, going up against a ton of righties. Like St. Louis is really not great versus righties, and Woodruff, he's kind of a splits neutral guy, but overall potential Cy Young caliber pitcher. I mean, getting it +240, I think Milwaukee ends up crushing him here. I took the -2.5 line. I think that's pretty solid.
You could get that over 6.5 Ks at +155 on William Hill, and that's a number that's intriguing. Although I'm not in love with a 6.5, but I mean, ton of righties. We know Woodruff's upside. +155 is really good value, I think. So I'm kicking the tires on that.
Yeah, I didn't see it +155. That's just so much. You know what? I'm hitting that. That's rough.
Yeah.
That's just a
We've been
massive.
projected to go slightly over. I mean, projections this time of the year are volatile, as we know, and they're median projections. But +155 is the biggest number on a K prop on this card right now. In terms of K props, like the most value. And God, he threw 90 pitches. Like they'll push him to 100 if he's cruising. Probably he can get 100 today.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that he ended up like actually getting stretched out in the off season.
Yeah,
He probably just didn't. Is it actually William Hill for you over in where are you at, Pennsylvania?
yeah. No, it's I guess it'd
Caesars?
be Caesars. Yeah,
Yeah. No, it's strange. I hated Williams Hill, but I mean, I still hate Caesars. I've been trying to get 15K out of my account for months, but they just aren't budging for some reason.
yeah. I've had some issues with them too. But I will say I was in Atlantic City a couple of weeks ago for my draft, and they all the sports books are great, but in Atlantic City, I think they have the biggest and maybe best setup in AC. So you got to come out here. I know it's probably a quicker flight for you for Vegas. I don't know if you want to come to Vegas's little brother, Atlantic City, but still some decent sports books. They're still on the come up over here, though. Like they're still building and kind of figuring their stuff out. But the William Hill in Atlantic City at the Tropicana is pretty sweet.
I mean, I mostly go to Vegas for fun. I don't go there to gamble that much. I mean, I'm not a
Why
huge
would you at this
gambler.
point? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't like gambling if I don't have things in my favor. So obviously, I love sports betting, but for everything else, like I just don't care anymore. I mean, I main reason I love Caesars is they give me a huge amount of free stuff. Like I was just there for my bachelor party last weekend, not last weekend, the weekend before. And I mean, I got like it was normally $1,500 per room for the weekend. I got like 4 rooms with one of them being a penthouse suite for like 2K total.
Wow.
And they like give me free dinners, they give me free all sorts of stuff. So I
That's
mean,
awesome.
that's the one edge Caesars has on everyone. I mean, MGM is pretty stingy on their sports book, but Caesars like I have 7-star status at Caesars right now because just off of sports gambling for like 3 months last year. That
Nice.
granted, I figured out the loophole in their system. The loophole is round robins. Go with some round robins there because they pay you based on how much you could potentially win, not how much you actually play. So going with more long shot stuff, definitely the better way to go.
Good call.
But you got any other bets, or should we get on out of here?
A couple I was putting together, and I just like I'm not sure which way I'm leaning. Um, Casey Mize is tough to figure out. Like,
Yep.
his K rates are low. Or what did I do with my notes? But and obviously the Royals don't strike out a ton. Didn't hit this number in the opener either. Either is at over 3.5 is what I'm thinking. When he threw at least 80 pitches last year, he hit this number in 12 of 15 games, and he actually hit this in 2/3 of 18 of 30 games overall. There was a while where he was on a leash. If you look at his log from last year,
Yeah, yeah, they were limiting him to
so
like 2 innings for some reason.
a team that doesn't K much against a guy whose his K rates aren't incredible, but his leash was so short. I'm on the fence with Casey Mize. I think there's some real
Yeah.
substance there to hit the over.
Sitting at plus 115 over at Fox Bet. I mean, if Fox Bet let me get down more than 40 bucks, I'd probably be on that.
And the other one I missed earlier was Musgrove at 5.5, and I should have hit the over. Did you have Musgrove on your sheet? Did we go there? I can't remember if you were looking at him or not.
No, it's still sitting at 5.5 at minus 145 over on Betfred. It's
Hmm.
actually not terrible,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's in at 6.5 almost everywhere else.
gotcha. Yeah, not sure. Sure, he'll be pretty popular in DFS tonight, regardless. So we'll see. Don't love that 6.5 number as much, but that's all I'm pretty much looking at for now, man.
Nice. Well, I always appreciate having you on. I'm sure we'll have you on again going forward, but gosh, I love baseball season. I
Yeah,
love baseball.
so
I
much
can't
action, so many games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still going a little bit light right now with so much unpredictability, but I'm you know me, I'm gonna go very heavy soon enough.
I don't doubt that, my friend. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Yeah, well, guys, yeah, appreciate it, Luch. Guys, we're out of here. See you, kids.